Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Bienvenidos a ¿Qué Pasa Mujer? Welcome to ¿Qué Pasa Mujer? We're here every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Estamos aquí todos los domingos a las 4 de la tarde. El propósito de nuestro show, ya llevamos 2 años haciendo el show y es para dar información positiva, más que nada, de compartir nuestras experiencias con ustedes. Conmigo está Mary García y Nick de Cuevas también. Somos un grupo de mujeres que nos encanta empoderar a otras mujeres, a otras personas. So we're here every Sunday. ¿Qué Pasa Mujer has been running for about a little bit over 2 years. And our purpose is myself, Viviana, Mary Garcia, and Icte Cuevas. We're just passionate women about empowering other women and just empowering other people. So we use this platform to be able to discuss some of our personal experiences and our professional experiences as well, and the facet of topics that we discuss here. So we're going to go ahead and bring Nicte on and Maddie on para que nos acompañen. Hola, Nicte, ¿cómo estás? Maddie.
Buenos días, mujeres.
Buenas tardes en el East Coast.
Oh, sí, tardes.
Sí, tú apenas despertándote.
Sí.
Bienvenidas. Como saben, la semana pasada estaba yo terrible de tos. Todavía, yo creo que yo tenía algo, pero me quedé en la casa. No he salido de la casa desde el domingo pasado. Llevo una semana sin salir y como que me gusta. No quiero regresar a la realidad. Pero hoy sí me sentí como un poquito claustrofóbica, como que tenía ganas de salir, pero me gustaría que el clima estuviera un poquito más caliente. Yeah, but you know, it is what it is. Nicte, cuéntame un poquito de tu semana, algo bonito, algo chévere, algo positivo.
Algo positivo. He estado yendo muchos terapias físicas para ayudarme con problemas que he tenido. So, ya al final del año pasado empecé a decir, ok, ya tenía muchos problemas. Entonces, ya dije, ok, es hora de cuidarme a mí misma, ir a ver los doctores y todo eso. Entonces, ya gracias a Dios he estado otra vez con las terapias. Sí, como tengo que manejar un poquito, sí me quita bastante de mi día, pero lo estoy tomando como una inversión, porque antes yo cometía el error de que, oh my God, tengo que manejar y pierdo 2, 3 horas y no sé qué, no seguía y luego no veía el beneficio, ¿no? De que me estaba ayudando. Entonces esta vez estoy diciendo, ok, es necesario y eso es lo que he estado haciendo, tratando de cuidarme un poquito más mi cuerpo, descansar un poco. Ayer mi hijo estaba enfermo y luego yo como que me empecé a sentir mal con dolor de cabeza. So ahorita tengo un dolor de cabeza, but I'm okay. So si me ven seria es porque estoy tratando de cometer lo que tengo acá, pero all good. Y estoy agradecida de que a pesar de todo, vivo en un lugar hermoso que estuvo lloviendo hace como unos minutos y ahora está sol brillante, bien bonito. So, perspectiva. ¿Qué tal ustedes, mujeres? Maddie, Viviana.
I think Viviana's frozen. So for me, here has been a crazy week because we had a little bit of the snow. And as you guys know, here in Virginia, we're not used to the snow. So anytime there's an advisory, Virginia flips. And we had a couple of I think we had like an inch or two or something like that. But it was white on the floor and, you know, everything was closed down. I think schools were closed for 2 days or something like that. We had a late start to the week at the bank, but we were able to kind of recover. My dad came. My dad had been in Dominican Republic for a couple of months, and he came back. While he was over there, he had a little accident, and he broke his arm, and he had to have surgery and stuff like that. So I'm just happy to report that he's back home and he's safe and sound. They made it, and my brother that lives in New York went to pick him up and kind of brought him home. So just thankful for the little wins. Do we have Viviana back? She's not moving. Blink twice if you need help.
I think she was coming in and out. Maybe it's the cold that you guys are getting that it's affecting the Wi-Fi internet. Let's see. Well, I think she's coming back on. I see the off and on mic. No. Yes, there she is. I saw her blink.
Sorry, techie issues today. It's like every.
There we go. I heard you.
Can you guys hear me okay now?
Yes. Uh-huh. And maybe not. I think what Viviana was trying to say is that it's just, tech issues. And the great thing about our show is that we roll with the punches. When these things happen, we roll with them. Yes. But I think you're still frozen. Oh, I like the little thought bubble. Oh, now I froze. Maddie, can you hear me?
I hear you. Fine. I don't see
you frozen.
I don't see you moving, but I hear you.
That is interesting because my Wi-Fi was good. Okay, I think Viviana's back. I might just jump off and on. I will be right back.
Yeah, I see you moving, Viviana. Are you with us? No, I think Viviana's still a little frozen. We lost Nikki for a little bit, so hopefully she'll get back with us. I see you moving, Viviana. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Okay, I'm back now. See.
Okay, so we got Nikki back, and Viviana's on the screen, but she's still frozen. At least she's smiling, so.
Yes. I see her moving. Viviana, we're ready for you. Maybe there's a lag. Do, 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 do. I think we need like little elevator music when we have little glitches. I was going to say,
if you want me to play some music, I can play some music,
Oh, okay. Well, while we're kind of waiting for Viviana, I think hopefully she can hear us because I can see her moving from time to time. I do want to say, Maddie, as per usual, I love your outfit. I love how it's all combinada and your earrings are beautiful and your collar, so beautiful.
Yeah.
Hasta los labios, very, very well coordinated.
Oh, and my nails. Look at my nails too.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that is so cute. Perfection.
Yes. You're celebrating Valentine's Day early?
Yes, my house is decorated for Valentine's Day too.
Ooh, so. Nice.
Yes. So we're ready. We're ready for love.
Love it.
Yes, and of course, Nikki, I love all your colors too. I love the blue, the red, the yellow. Looks amazing.
Gracias. Hi, Sherry. Thank you so much for being here with us. think Viviana is back. Like, I think I hear her. I see her. Are you there, Viviana? Clap once.
Can you hear me?
Sing.
I'm
Yes.
here.
Okay, yay. Okay, so there we go. Viviana's coming in and out. Okay, so in case can't hear Viviana, whenever you want to start chiming in and out. If not, Maddie or I can kind of talk about our topic today. Okay, so without further ado, we are going to go ahead and talk about the topic for today. So today we're going to talk about how to handle change when it happens. And I mean, this was a really great way to kind of segment into it, talking about our week from Viviana being sick for the whole week, not leaving. And, you know, that also makes a lot of changes when you're running a business, when you have your family, and Maddie from you with your family, the snow day too, and, you know, kind of how we handle those things. So the good and the challenging changes.
Mm-hmm.
Viviana, since you're back, take the lead. Or not. I don't know if you can hear us.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I don't know if she can hear
¿Me
us.
oyen?
I think, see, I don't think she can hear us.
De vez en cuando. No, I can hear you.
Okay, so there's a little lag.
So you were talking about making changes or accepting changes into our lives?
Mm-hmm. Yes, kind of kicking off our topic.
See?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ask Maddie, because I know you with your work. Sí, te oímos. I was going to see Maddie look like she was ready to share something. And
Okay,
I don't know. Let's see. I would like to hear
sí, queríamos
your perspective.
hablar de los... O está bien concentrada.
No, so we have like a really big jet lag with Viviana. So it's like information is getting late to her. But anyway, no, I was just gonna, you know, we were introducing the topic and kind of talking about changes. And like you said, it's a great introduction. It's always a new year, and every year, you know, like we were talking last year, you know, I think I'm sorry, last show, we were talking about like our resolutions and things like that, and I kind of said, you know, resolutions, like if you look back at your life, probably 80% of your resolutions are the same every year. Probably 80% of it, you know. So it's like, you know, how do we get there, and how do we handle like the changes, what we can and cannot change in our lives. And I think, you know, that's the most important part of these curveballs that we get thrown in life, is kind of recognizing what we have control of and what we don't. Hi, Lily. Before we continue, hola, Lily.
Hola.
Besos, besos. And we have Viviana back. Blink, clap once, twice, blink. You know, can we feel you?
Yeah.
Okay, she's back. There we go.
So yeah, so I think, you know, one of the biggest things is kind of recognizing, you know, those two. What can we change, and what, you know, what can we control, and and what is out of our control, you know. And then recognizing, I think the main thing is that there's a lot of outside forces that we cannot control, and all we can do is react to it. We cannot control what happens, but we can control how we react to those specific situations. So I think that's the most important part, kind of recognizing those two. What can I do? What can I not do? Could I have changed that? And and I think sometimes, when we see things happening like outside, we kind of like a little bit more content with the outcome. When things happen inside or that directly affect us, it's a little harder to make that distinction. Like, for example, as a parent, I'm talking as a parent. So when you see things happening to your children, it's like, how could I, like, we take ownership of whatever happens, whether we can control it or not. So I think one of the, again, back to what I was saying from the beginning, is kind of recognizing what we can and cannot change, and then controlling how we react to those situations. Thinking.
Yeah, I really agree. And I think that was a really great insight, Maddie. And I almost wonder the part about understanding and recognizing what we can and can't control. I feel like for me, for instance, and I don't know about you mujeres, but as I've gotten older, I've been much better about not reacting than when I was younger. Because when I was younger, like something, I just like immediately react and not like try to think of like, oh, okay, what is being said or what's the situation, and then I can react. I think that that's really started to happen in a much better flow, like consistently as I've gotten much older than in my earlier days. So now I'm learning to be more conscious of like, oh, this is a situation. Let me pause and reflect and then react. And then sometimes we don't even have the chance to. It's kind of one of those like split seconds that we have to make that decision. But I think, like you were saying, Maddie, building that habit of not reacting immediately and being aware of like, what can I control and what can I not control? It helps you react a little bit better in those split second decisions. I don't know. What do you think, mujeres?
I see Viviana moving. Do you want to respond, Viviana?
Yeah.
When you get to be 15, te va a importar un pepino todo entonces.
Hi, Olga, and the Círculo of Mujeres Latinas.
Hola, Olga.
That's
Yeah, yo
perfect.
pienso que muchas veces we're like, it's fear, right? Fear of the change. But if we remove the fear, we can maybe look forward to, because we don't know what it's going to look like until we experience it. So that's one of the things that I'm working on constantly is the fear factor. And it seems that life throws things at me that come with fear. So I can continue to practice not to have it. Because I think sometimes it's even the stuff that's going on in politics right now with our new presidency and stuff like that is a lot. You guys know I don't watch the news, but because I've been home this entire week, like I haven't left the house in 7 days. I've been watching the news, and so I'm looking forward to not watching the news because it's a lot of stuff, and you can easily be impacted in a negative way. But it just depends on how you see things. Olga said, when you get to 60, it's even worse. No sé, te va a resbalar todo. But yeah, I think fear just gets in the way of a lot of the things. And it's just life, and it's just the choices that we make and how we see life. And I think, as you said, Nick, as you get older, like if you talk to people that are in their 70s and 80s, they're just living one day at a time, and they're truly enjoying that day in that moment. Even people that are sick, they just kind of enjoy the moment. And I just think that we need to show a lot of empathy, because we may see a situation as something negative, but that person is feeling it too, in some capacity, maybe not the same way that we are, but they're feeling it in that same capacity. I was listening to an article today about, the new generation and how we talk junk about them because they feel like they're privileged and all this other stuff. But we have to be empathetic to them as well because they grew up different than we did. And it's not necessarily something that they did, is probably more of a parenting issue. But I just think that the key word for me is empathy at all times in any situation, positive or negative.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Hmm. I agree as well. I think, it's also, like each generation is different, and each generation is gonna face their own set of problems, and they're gonna be approached differently. And I think sometimes, again, we are social creatures, and we tend, because I do this all the time. I'm having a conversation, and when somebody's talking about their issue or their problem, the way for me to identify with their issue or their problem is to try to put myself in that position. When have I felt like that? When have I gone through something similar? And how have I reacted to that? Maybe my reaction to that similar problem might help that other person go through their issue. But if I think about it, again, I'm almost 50. If I'm talking to a 20-year-old, they're going to relate completely different because we grew up at two different times. So, those are the things that, we got to consider. The issues that 20-year-old has now, very different from the ones that I had when I was 20. So even though we try to kind of try to find similarities in how we feel, because, if you think about it, that's how we connect to one another, through situations, through feelings, to how we react to things. And we want to share that in the hopes that we can help others. Again, that's what we're doing here in Pasa Mujer. We're sharing our stories in the hopes that, what we have gone through can help other people, in their own personal growth. But at the same time, we got to be realistic. Everybody is different. We are all in different situations, in different.
I agree.
And again, I think it just goes back to what we can control.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Maddie. And you were saying something that really was such a great perspective for us to consider too when we're talking to younger generations. I think we've heard it all throughout, like every generation, that the younger generations, there's always something like millennials, they would say something about millennials, and then the Gen Z, and then Gen X, and all those, like, it kind of story repeats itself. It's slightly different situations or different norms or customs or culture. But you said something really great, is to being able to, they're aware that you might not be able to have the same experience to when you were that age. And I think one of the perfect examples that I've noticed is when you think about the younger generation now. I've seen a lot of very young 20-year-olds say that they were making $1 million, over $1 million, creating content, and they were all like, social media, YouTube, and then they felt the burnout. And I was like, wow, at that age, that was not something that we had. The younger generation nowadays, and the technology and resources that they have to grow their business is way different to what we had in, back in our early 20s. And it's interesting to see how, like, at such a young age, so many of them have been feeling the burnout. And it's easy when you didn't have that same way of life or access to technology to grow your business, that it's easy to say, well, why are they so burnt out when they're so young? Because I've heard that comment. And even sometimes I'm like, well, I wasn't burnt out at that age. And it's kind of like a different situation where they're constantly on their phones, constantly trying to create content, consume content, and that does wear you out. So I think that that's a really great point that you put, Maddie, in that sometimes you can have empathy. You might not understand where they're coming from. And I think too, especially as women, we try to help solve other people's problems, but sometimes all we need to do is listen and be of support. So sometimes if we can't solve it, it's just, how can I be there for you? If you need a ear to hear you out, a shoulder to lean on, kind of being there for them in that sense, and not trying to solve problems. Because I think too, as an empath, when you try to take on too many problems, you neglect yourself, like what's important for you. So it's in that balance of of what you take in to help others, but also knowing maybe they just want to be heard or just vent for a moment and then they're good.
I think life is also moving at a faster pace. We are moving a lot faster, so things are changing constantly. If you think about it, maybe, when we were growing up, we didn't have necessarily cell phones, or if you had a cell phone, it was an older person that was running a business or whatever, young people didn't have cell phones. Now a cell phone is nothing. It's like, having a pair of pants, you have a cell phone, and everybody has a cell phone, or a tablet or a way of communication. When we were growing up, there was no such thing. If your teachers had to talk to your parents, they had to send the letter and the parents had to get the letter, and then that process would take a couple of days. Now it's like parents get a phone call, what the hell is going on? And by the end of the day, your parent is at the school, So every life is just moving so much faster, and information getting from one place to the other. So when you talk about that burnout, that's, I think that has a lot to do with it. And also, I think the mentality of like the workforce, the workforce before, our focus was, maybe to get a good job, to start building, a future in a good company that you could have a good retirement. And that was kind of like the mentality of, oh, you've made it. And now I think we're seeing more and more at an early age. It's, how can I have my own business? How can I make my own money? How can I work for me? And you have 15, 16, 17. The other day, I just opened a business account for, I think he was 19. He was already a realtor, and he had developed a software to help companies increase their social media. I guess like when people give them reviews, only the reviews that are 5 stars or above could stay in something like that. But it was, something amazing. And he got his first paycheck, and he came in to open a business account. He was 19.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So it's like that's unheard of. So at 19 years old, I was trying to, figure out if I was going to pass my next class or not. So so, I think because children are having, young people are having more and more opportunities to develop. I know Viviana posted the question, the difference between, changing and growing. There's different opportunities, and I think you're getting that opportunity to pick your path at an earlier age than when we were growing up. And I think, kids are facing things a lot sooner than what we did. Decisions that maybe we would make, or that we had to make in our 30s, kids in their 20s, maybe earlier, and having to make those same decisions. So, I think, while there's a lot of things that kind of have gotten lost in translation, there's, also a lot of things that are also happening a lot quicker, and kids are growing a lot faster in different ways.
Viviana, you look like you were going to say something, so I'll hold off because I was like,
yeah, I was going to say, just with AI and how AI is helping us move even quicker than before, and just the technology that we're using. And, it goes back to change as entrepreneurs, or as, in the banking system, just in every aspect of life. You have to change. You have to like come prepared to make changes, to grow, right? Because just because AI exists doesn't mean that I should shy away from it. Maybe like I was listening to some CEOs this week on the news, excuse me, and they were just talking about, these are older gentlemen in their 50s, 60s, and they're having to use AI, to strategize for their company. And they know that if they don't move with the times, like, they'll get lost and they won't have a job. So I think it's important for us that it doesn't matter the age that we are, that we still try to grow and evolve with technology, because it's here and it's making that speed go even quicker for everyone.
I agree. And I love what you were saying, that was such a great example about the AI, that I understand the apprehension for it for many people, but it is a technology that's not going to it's not going to slow down. It's not going to go away. And it's almost like a similar parallel when computers were first coming out. There was a huge pushback from computers and that they were going to replace jobs. But look at how much computers has done when we look back, over the decades, of how it's enabled new jobs, new technologies. And so there's always that opportunity, and it's finding, even if you're uncomfortable with the change, it's finding something that you can slowly get into to learn. And I do think that there's some really great things that AI, like you were saying, Viviana, it helps some companies strategize. I see it as a way to have some of the production or the tedious work done. Like, AI can help you with that. It gives you some of your time back. And going back to what Maddie was saying, is that we are bombarded with doing things so much faster, that expectation, that when we can use tools and technology to help us gain some of that time back, it's really, really good for us. And I think that that really is something that can help us in the long run, as we can start to embrace this. And when you don't implement or try to understand some of these technological advancements, sometimes you fall behind. And we can look at these huge department stores that are starting to close down across the nation. And these were department stores that were huge back in the day for us. And now they're closing down. And a lot of it has to do because of online shopping, that people would rather go buy things online because of the convenience, et cetera, versus going to the actual physical store. And a lot of these stores didn't want to implement some sort of online shopping experience when they could have. They had the funds to, but they chose to stay in that lane without embracing change and finding ways how they can still stay where their core foundation of what they were built for as a business, but then implementing these new technologies. So I think that there's some examples that we can see of how technologies or companies fall behind when they don't embrace new technologies. I mean, Blockbuster is another really great example too. How, Netflix started with the CDs and there was that convenience. Now look, it's online streaming, and Blockbuster closed down. So a lot of us were lucky enough to experience Blockbuster growing up as kids or young adults. But it's not something that is here. It's kind of like one of those vintage things that people talk about nowadays. So really great examples of being able to see change and embrace it, and find ways, if it's uncomfortable for you, finding ways that you can make little changes a day at a time to embrace this transition or change, even to getting into AI if you are uncomfortable with it.
And I think it's evolving with it. So like in my field, I can say, AI with tutoring, like I can be replaced with AI. Or I could say, let me use AI to make me more efficient, right? Let me use AI for marketing. Let me teach my students how to properly use AI for academic purposes. So I think you either choose to get lost in the process or just be a part of it and grow with it, because I think that's important.
Yeah, I think everything in life has pros
Like
and
with
cons.
you, Nikte, but you could go on a website and it can create a logo for you, but you're a brand strategist and designer, right? So that's not necessarily something that AI can do, right? I'm sure you use AI for your projects, but you have to have that swag of, they can't do what I do. AI cannot do what I do. So I think it's having that mentality.
I was gonna say, whenever there's change, there's always gonna be good things and bad things about the changes, and I think we have to kind of learn to embrace the change. And like Viviana was saying, embrace the positive and kind of deal, with the negative, like you were saying, Nikki, about those stores closing down, yes, they're closing more locations, but, now they're selling online. So maybe their advertising is going to change, a little bit. We've seen also a lot of the stores implementing the self-checkouts where people will, they'll have one person there and 5 registers, and this person is kind of the one person monitoring everybody doing the self-checkout and things like that. So they're trying to see how they can maximize, the technology and make it work to their advantage so that they can still have physical locations. So we find ourselves, constantly adapting, to the changes and trying to make it work to our advantage, because, either we close for business or we try to salvage the situation as best as we can.
I agree.
Yeah,
And
like the other day I was in a meeting, Nick, and I thought about you because they were showing a graphic for a promotion that they're going to be doing. And one of the gentlemen said, like, it looks weird because I'm colorblind, right? There's certain colors I don't see. And I was like, whoever created this graphic, you could utilize AI to detect what it looks like for people that they can't see color or whatever. So I thought about you because you taught me that feature in the program that you use. But yeah, it's evolving. And mind you, I was in a marketing meeting, so you would think that somebody knew about this, but most of the people that were there were older than me. So because, and it's that wraparound, that, the domino effect of transferring information. So, and not hoarding the information, because Nikte shared that information with me. I shared it with somebody else. But that whoever created that graphic should know that that's a feature that could be used.
I agree. And I love that you use that example, because I think that so let's say that technology wasn't there to check this out, and I'll talk about in a second which software you can use. But the old way to do it is you would manually have to go and do contrast checks. So you would go to like another website and plug in the values. What is the color that you're using for your background, and what's the color you're using for your text? And then you'll get some score for, is it going to be legible? Is it going to be with enough contrast? That's additional work that, unfortunately, while it's necessary, a lot of people don't do because it adds them, time. And then we're kind of going back to what we were saying earlier, and with your example, Maddie, is that we're expected to do things so much quicker that sometimes, especially in marketing, is that timing is of the essence. Let's push this out quickly. So I do think that giving yourself that time to explore what tools you can use and how it can make your life better is a huge thing. The tool that we were talking about is Adobe Express, and inside their platform they have like an add-on that you can download for free, and there's a couple versions where it's a color blindness simulator and contrast checker, and you do it all inside there. So as you're designing, you're able to quickly check what this would look like for different types of color blindness. And that makes it so much easier for you to get a perspective of what someone else might see. And Viviana, that was such a great example, because this was within a marketing team, like an internal team. But then you think about when you're putting out content for your audience, and there's so many people who would have similar situations to that person from the team meeting that said they couldn't see, the difference between the colors because of the color blindness. So I definitely do think that it is important to share resources. Maddie, I know this is your area where you always talk about education and how important it is. Being able to pass on the information from generation to generation. But I also think that it's important to learn from younger generations, especially this younger generation that is super tech savvy, that they're creating content like on the whim. I have friends who are like 20s and early 30s, and I'm just like in awe of how sometimes they can quickly see, oh, we can make a video like this, and they're done within like 15 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay. So being nimble enough to learn from people who are younger than you that can teach you so much, so that it's kind of like, I think it's a ¿cómo se llama? Ping pong effect. Like you teach them, they teach you, but also being open from both sides to learn from one another.
Yeah, I think that's huge. You like you said a very important point, Nikki, where you said that we need to learn from one another. I think sometimes, we are so because when again I go back to how we grew up versus the generation now. When we grew up, we were told that our elders were sacred, that they knew better, that they knew it all, that they were wise, that this and this and that, and we learned to kind of respect and idolize that. But while we see that and we still value that and we should, we also see how again our generation now is growing faster at a different pace, a different rate, and they're dealing with different situations. So sometimes it's not so much, I'm the authority, I'm the one that knows better, I know best because I've been doing this for 20 years. No, we need to be open to kind of be able to learn from one another. And sometimes it's not, they might be teaching you a new way to do the same thing that you've been doing it, and maybe save you a little bit of time, maybe not necessarily something new, but a different way of approaching it so that you can be more efficient at what you do, so we do have to keep an open mind. And I know change is the hardest thing. Change is hard. When you're used to doing something a certain way, this is how I do it, this is how I know how to do it, this is how I feel comfortable doing it, and all of a sudden, something changes. I go through this like every year at the bank. We're constantly changing the way that we do things, and it is so uncomfortable because a lot of my job is very repetitive. So when I'm sometimes like I know, like I print out my paperwork and I explain my paperwork upside down to my clients because I know what the paper says. I've been doing it for so long that I'm like, oh yeah, the paper says this and this and this and that, and then like you read upside down, but then changes happen and you're like going down the paper, you're like, oops, by the this, you got to take it back because this changed like last week or this week, so it's things like that. So we do have to be able to accept change and kind of keep an open mind to learn from one another, because again, people learn differently, people visualize things differently. You might explain something to me and I might not understand it necessarily coming from you, Nikki, but then Viviana will break it down in a different way and I'm like, hell, that's what she was saying, so I think that's always going to be important, and we shouldn't take it personally. It's just, again, people will process things a little bit different, and sometimes what people are saying sometimes click and sometimes they don't. So again, an open mind and be open to change.
Yeah, that reminds me, a couple of years ago, I had a student, every time he would come for tutoring, he'll say, Miss Viviana, let me see your phone. And he would just rearrange things and clean stuff in the phone and, wipe my screen down. And every single time that I saw him, and I embraced it, and I didn't notice a difference, but he was doing something to it. So I think things like that are important, which kind of speaks on what you're talking about, Maddie, of just embracing what young people, and even little people like Nicte's daughter, son, you could even learn from them because sometimes they get exposed to things and we can have those conversations with them. And I just think that it's just amazing how I found it intriguing, and I've mentioned it on the show before, when I tutor people and I just see their brain, just move. I could just picture the inside of the brain moving, and I love it. Because we're all so different, and I love that. I wish that I could see my face, how I respond to people when they're learning something. But I just think it's amazing how we process things. And even as a mother, we've had to evolve because the way that we talk to a 7-year-old is different than the way we talk to our 20-something-year-old. So even in that, it's changed. And like I tell my kids all the time, I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. So my job is just to be transparent, be open, and call you out on things, because I'm gonna call you out. because then we can have a conversation. I'm not passing judgment, but we're having, transparent conversations. And I think that's important, because usually, like in my generation, it was like, don't talk about it. If you don't talk about it, then we're good. But I've chosen to talk about it with my children, and I think they like it. Sometimes it's embarrassing, but I don't care. I'm still gonna do it.
I love how you said, Viviana, choosing to talk about things and having that transparency, because I can totally relate. It definitely was like, or like, my word is la ley. And it wasn't it was the mala gana, or like, with ill intentions. It just was how the generation was like taught from generation to generation. Something also that you were saying, Maddie, as well, how we were taught to respect our elders. And it's not that we don't respect our elders anymore, but I think there's something about being able to have open conversations to hear where other people's perspectives are coming from, and not feel that, oh, I have to convince Maddie that pigs are rainbow colored and they can fly because I feel that that's how they are. And if she doesn't agree with me, then I don't want to be her friend. Like, being able to find that medium part where, like, oh, I can, let her know my perspective. And if she doesn't see it, it's okay. Like, we can respect each other for that. And having these conversations, I think in the long term brings us closer, even though you may not agree with things. I think that for me, for instance, is cuando you're not allowed to say things or to speak up or share what you're feeling. Like, there comes to a point where you bottle it up, that you just explode. And I think sometimes that's what happens with younger generations, where older generations are telling them, don't say what you think, just do. And it's kind of like como los caballos with the blinders. And there comes to a point where they hold back so much that they just explode. And it's just, whether it's through emotions, through anger, whatever it is. So I do love what you were saying, Viviana, is being able to have these conversations, because sometimes in these conversations, I think that it helps us navigate change, us navigate, these uncomfortable moments. And even though we're used to things working a certain way, like you were even saying, Maddie, with the banking industry. I mean, I feel like it's evolved so much from back in the day. We used to have to go to the bank to deposit a check. That was the only way. And now we can do it through their mobile devices, which is great for me because my bank isn't here where I live. So it's all these little things that we can embrace change that becomes a great benefit for us. But then when it doesn't, it's just having these conversations or having that open mind of what can we do to embrace it, or how is this going to help me, and learning new things. And I'll conclude my little thought with what you were saying, Viviana, that how you really enjoy seeing your students learn in that process, and like, just like, I'm visualizing it as you're saying. And sometimes I think that as we get older, we forget the joy of learning new things because we're used to doing things a certain way. And I think that if we can just take a little bit of that joy and embrace it, and like, you know what, let me try to learn something new. This could help me out. Or if not, but I'm learning something new. I think that that could give us a little bit more joy, or embracing change in a different way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like you said, Nikki, I think the learning, but also the sharing. You said
And
at
I
the
think
beginning
also
too, when we
letting the
share
kids know,
everything
like,
that
hey,
we.
transparency moment.
Sorry, I think we were talking at the same time. I was just saying that
No, you're
when
fine.
that you said at the beginning, Nikki, too, about sharing the information. I think that is huge too. When you learn something new, pass down, what you learn. And, it could be that you walk into a room and there's 10 people and 9 of them knew what you were saying, but there's that one person that had no idea, and you made a difference and made an impact in that person's life. That's kind of how we need to approach things. Like I said, I work in an industry that's constantly evolving, and I'm the one person that if I learn something new, the first thing I go to everybody says, did you know, because you, and especially when we see clients all the time, you all want to be on the same page, because a client will come in. I mean, we get it all the time. Well, I called the 800 number and they told me this, you know, and then they come into the branch and it's like, well, it's not necessarily like this, it's like that, you know. So it's important for everybody to have the same information and be able to relay the same information. So I think it's huge when you learn something new that we are willing to share, you know, what we learn. So, you know, that again, we don't know what kind of impact or what difference we're making in that other person's life.
Maddie, did you know that Latinos contribute $3.4 trillion to the economy? You didn't know?
No. Tell me more.
Yes. So it's been about 2 or 3 years, and we, as Latinos, just the Latinos in the United States, we contribute $3.4 trillion, not billion, not million, but trillion with a T, $1 trillion. So I always try to make sure that I spread that word, and usually when I say it, they understand. They're like, "Oh, wow."
That is
Did
a
you know,
lot
Nicte?
of dinero. Yes. But I love. I think that it's a fact that we can never forget. And I love that every time we're on our show, Viviana, you always mention it because it is important to see how much we contribute. And, you know, we keep people like Maddie constantly busy because we're putting in money into the bank, all these trillions, and may it go to billions, gajillions, quadrillions. That's a number that my son made up, quadrillion.
Quadrillion.
Which, you know, I just, the more we can contribute, I think the more good we can do within our community, other communities. And I think it is important to see how much contribution we have as a community and to never forget, especially when you're trying to market to us. That's so important.
Yeah, I love it. Um, so I know that there's a lot of changes coming just because even it's a new year, you know. And I challenge you to accept the change a little bit better and remove the fear factor from the change. Because sometimes we may see it as a negative, but we don't really know the outcome until we go through with it. You know, it's kind of like tasting, you know, going to a new restaurant that you've never tried before is the change. But maybe you end up liking the restaurant. So I just encourage people to be open and to teach our young people to be open as well, that change is not always a bad thing. So so with that and so with that, we're not going to change the fact that Maddie does a poem for us at the end of every show. Sometimes we'll alter it a little bit because you know she'll show a poem from another Latina person or Latino. But rest assured, we will always have some type of poetry, even if we don't have anything and we have to bring the producer on to drop some beat or something. We will always have something for sure. So Mark, always be ready because you never know. But we're gonna go ahead and get ready for your poem, Maddie.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mark, drop the beat. No, I'm just kidding. I was gonna say, I want to say, just piggyback a little bit on what Viviana was saying. You know, I think it's important that we learn not to write ourselves out of our own stories, because sometimes, you know, we again, because of that fear or because of the unknown, we tend to kind of hold ourselves back. And not be open to the experience or to the knowledge, or it might go against what we think it's the norm, and we close ourselves to it. So again, don't write yourself out of the stories, because you don't know what kind of change or what kind of difference you can make. So today I'm going to read, again, this is an oldie. I wrote this in 2012, people. So I've been going through the archives, you know. And then this one came from, I have a very good friend, and she is white. She's a white girl, but she's my poetry sister. We started doing poetry at the same time, and it's like it was exactly the same. Remember the first time we went to a poetry reading, we were reading like holding on to the podium and looking down. We were not there to look at the people. We were so afraid. And now all of a sudden, we've traveled, we perform on stage, and it's like a completely different. And sometimes when you meet people that maybe look different than you look, you are like, oh, but we're so different. And then as you get to know each other, you're like, but we're a lot of the same. So this is called different yet the same. So different yet the same. A simple lesson of love that's limitless, just by letting me feel you and allowing all of me to be felt. Helping me understand that we are individual extensions of the same, unrelated packages carrying a unified message. At times, we fail to recognize that while our outside may be diverse, we all bleed red, different, yet the same. You live, you fail. You live, you fall, you fail, and hope you have learned, sometimes taking a while to comprehend. We hate, we love in our own way, like carbon copies or a rare blend, different yet the same. Taking in all of me, you interpret my feelings, careful, detailed, without mistakes. That's because more than anyone you understand. Then I see myself in you, and I realize that yes, we are unique, single individuals, different, yet inside our makeup is the same.
I love it. And it's very, I think, in tune with what we were talking about and the changes that are coming in 2025. And it's all about respect. That's kind of what I got
I
gathered
love
from the
that.
poem. So
Yeah,
always,
it was perfect.
always great. But I hope you ladies have an amazing week. And I want to say thank you to our audience for engaging with us, for staying with us all this time. And thank you, ladies. Thank you, Nikte and Maddie. I so greatly appreciate the time and your dedication to the show. And I want to say thank you to Pot TV for allowing us to give us this platform where we have complete freedom to speak our language, our native language, or English, or both. And, we have no parameters. So I thank you, Mark, for everything that you do. And I hope you guys have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you all. Gracias. And I hope that you feel better, Viviana.
Yes.
Gracias, everyone.
Whether you're a seasoned designer, dabbler, or just starting out, this course is for you.
If you're watching this with your friends, you'll probably make a joke.
Because you know what you feel on the inside
isn't what you want people to know.
If you have to pretend to be happy,
find someone you trust and tell them.
If you get mad at things and you don't know why, or have thoughts about hurting yourself,
find someone you trust and tell them.
You are never alone when you share.
Seriously, people care about you.
It's okay to not understand what you're feeling.
And it's easy to think that you're all alone.
But you don't have to be.
You're never alone when you share.
Don't be ashamed to tell someone you trust what you're feeling.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Find someone you trust and tell them.
Tell a parent.
Tell a teacher. Tell a brother or sister.
Or just tell a friend.
You haven't done anything wrong.
Talk to someone.
Talk to someone.
It's how things get better.
are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be. A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.